folks. Welcome to another edition of the Ominous Hour. They seem to be coming hot and heavy these days. And that's a pattern you'll see with my work. I'll go silent for a bit to do some integration and processing, as we all do when we're awakening spiritually and dealing with new aspects of the universe that we haven't faced before. And then there will be periods of very long rants about whatever I'm really excited about, leading into shorter episodes that are kind of daily commentary on things that come across my attention, which will be, in some sense, a little bit of a repeat of things I've already said, but always with a little bit of refinement that I've gotten from past days' inspirations. Today's title is, well, it might offend some of you, but I call it Creation is Not a Circle Jerk, because it's going to touch on many of the popular misconceptions about what's going on here, and wrap them up in a news article that someone shared with me, and is an example of how the entities in play here can seem like your friend, can tell you sweet little lies, sweet little half-truths, and be absolutely trying to suck you down to slavery again, or non-existence, which is just as good to the ones who are really these guys. Okay, which explains the background. The article that kind of informs this talk is one that's come out recently. It's popular among the so-called conspiracy theory group that follow the ET, ancient alien cult, which, like most cults, most religions, has a basis in a lot of truth, or it would not be so popular. Okay, so the story was about some folks called the Andromedans. I don't know if they're from Andromeda. I certainly know that they are not who they present themselves as. Some guy says, well, they contacted us and told us we were actually made of bits of 25 or so species. This is a truth, but it may not be the full truth. And I don't think even the Andromedans themselves know their own history. My opinion is that they are much like the modern Mormon cult, led astray by a leader that told them sweet little lies that created just another religion of authoritarian worship of the perfect leader, which anybody that knows anything about Mormonism knows that's how it started, and it continues today. Joseph Smith, Brigham Young, all the great patriarchs, leaders of the Mormon Church, run it in sort of an authoritarian way, dictating what is or isn't the dogma of the church, which can change on a dime if it suits them. They used to be dead set against drinks like Coca-Cola because of its content of caffeine, which at one time they thought was a bad thing. But when it became convenient, which was when they wanted to make a big investment in the Coca-Cola company, all of a sudden it became okay. They were big proponents of polytheistic or polygamous relationships, yet changed on a dime in order to further their ambitions through participation in the United States. And I'm not going to pass judgment on them. It's just an example of how a prophet inspired by God is also tempted by inspirations by anti-God, which is something I've been talking a lot about lately. This is going to kind of be a debunking of the false prophets of the aliens are going to save us. And the further falsehood behind that, the cyclical theory of what's going on here, of the universe, which you'll hear from proponents of Hinduism, Buddhism, New Age, Neo-Buddhism, all sorts of cults running around telling you, oh, we need to bring back the golden age. Oh, there's going to be a new golden age of 1,000 years if we can just get through this together through peace and love and harmony. These people are being misled by this evil, mind-controlling anti-God. There's no such thing as a free lunch here on Earth or in the cosmos. These beings who present themselves as Andromedans may be some real Andromedans that are misled into thinking what they're doing is good. They don't know their own history. They don't know that they still have a faction among them who are serving darkness, who actually want to destroy and enslave humanity, put it back in its place where it belongs as a lesser entity. Oh, humanity, they will never improve. They're doing all the same things that they always did. We need to do a great reset on them for their own good, so Mother Nature can take over again and show them how wonderful they could be if they just listened to authoritarian rule. This is what's going on here. And I know this is going to offend many of you who are ardently waking up to the fact that there's something more in the Bible, in the other writings of ancient cultures, than your preacher told you in church. And this is another way that BORG works. It uses the well-intentioned authoritarianism of the parent, of the priest, of the school teacher, and turns it against them. Makes the children rebellious, makes them think, oh, that guy's full of shit. He's telling me I can't stay out after 10. Johnny stays out after 10 and he has more fun than I do. How many times have you heard that from a teenager if you're a parent? Okay? We all have to have a set of laws that we live by. And because souls and humans are all at different levels of maturity and ability to take on responsibility, we have to judiciously apply those laws to the people around us. And this is what's going on with the great demonic possession of reaction to the Roe v. Wade decision, which you are witnessing if you are among my American audience today, or looking at what's going on in the USA. People's heads are exploding over a constitutional decision that had really nothing to do with abortion per se, but with whether the states and local governments had jurisdiction over family law. Whether you should deal with things at the lowest level that makes sense, or kick it up to a big authoritarian power that thinks they know everything and wants to solve everybody's problem. This is what's really going on here. Nobody wants babies to be killed. Nobody wants women to be oppressed. But they're telling you that's what's going on because they are under the influence of BORG, this mind-controlling entity that manifests physically as the queen of the hive mind spiders. Ask yourself, look at the world, look at hive species, how they behave, ants, bees. Some people look at them and say, oh, look how peaceful they are. Everybody knows their place. Everybody does their job. Isn't it wonderful? Until you see one of them attacking a neighborhood hive or going after a food source in competition with any other species. And they're absolutely vicious. Now, why aren't there any spiders that work like that? Spiders are so closely related. Well, what's different about spiders? Any guesses? Yes, 8 instead of 6 legs. And as I've told you many times, the number of digits, the number of limbs that creatures have is a very important clue to why and who created them. I'm going to let you stew on that one for a little bit and just give you a high 5, maybe a high 10. Think about it. Now, I don't know. I don't remember. You know, I actually didn't even read that article because I'm not an ET particularly focused person. I'm focused on spirituality and focused on getting through what humanity is going through right this time so we don't have to go through it all again. Because there never was a golden age. What we are going through today is not some horrible, evil thing that patriarchy brought upon us. We are not doomed to oscillate back and forth between matriarchy and patriarchy, fighting endlessly as a species about sex. It's insane. The first creators did not have sex. There was no sex in heaven before Earth existed. There was no sex in the physical universe till it was invented, which I don't know if I'll get into here, but is another good episode that I refer to as the truth about cats and dogs. Anyway, you're getting this narrative completely wrong from top to bottom. And the folks in the media, the folks in government, the folks in science, the folks in spirituality are completely off the rails for the most part about what's going on, because they are completely wrapped up in a dogma that they refuse to let be challenged by any new information. This is how BORG assimilated people act. No matter what they believe in, no matter what their religion or ideology or science or spirituality or whatever is, if it becomes so rigid that anyone who questions what they believe is attacked like an invading force, which you're seeing a lot of this with the love, light, and unity, oneness tribe, as they start to fragment and realize, gosh, we're not really all one. We don't agree on everything. And you know what? Nobody who's ever really come back from an NDE tells quite the same story about this magical God source that we're supposed to all originate from. This is a lie, lie. And it's a popular lie, especially among the people who are looking into these connections to ancient civilizations, ancient technologies. Really sincere, great people like Greg Braden, like Gordon Hancock, like Bruce Lipton, that list goes on and on. They are going off the rails with this cosmic oneness nonsense. Nonsense. What is going on down here is very real, even if it's a simulation. It is a reflection of a war that's going on in heaven too, as above, so below. And you guys don't even know who the real white hats are. You don't know who the real God is and his team, who are not authoritarian worshipers of a micromanaging God, authoritarian almighty God. If that's how you think of the divine, you're playing for the wrong team. I don't know, maybe you want to live like that, and that's why we come up with this solution. Because what's going on down here is there are two universes, two complementary universes, which scientists will tell you is the most logical explanation for the fact that the universe we perceive around us and live in has almost predominantly positive matter. Where's all the antimatter, we ask? Some of it gets created by cosmic rays. We can create it artificially, but we see no antimatter stars, antimatter galaxies, etc., in our universe. How did the Big Bang start? Did it explode from one center and it's moving out in all directions? Or maybe it went in one direction and the other direction was an anti-universe of antimatter. And if you think about it spiritually, the matter universe could be the contribution of God to deciding the war in heaven, deciding what is the right government for souls, freedom or authoritarian mind control. And the other universe is the universe of BORG, the almighty authoritarian who wants to take over every mind in the multiverse. And through a hierarchy of minions that are given various levels of its mind control, its hive mind controlling power, regulate and control everything. Decide who should invent everything, what they should invent, and what it will be. And that's why I hope that those of you who are on the right team and are maybe a little bit demoralized right now will realize that they are really, really stupid, just like the Chinese Communist Party. The only way that they've ever stayed anywhere close to us is by stealing our inventions from the minds of our creators who are not very bright, not very aware of the spiritual component of this war. And that is pretty much every materialist scientist. Folks like Elon Musk, who are well-intentioned, but don't realize that there is another layer of this battle they don't understand. They think, the agnostic crowd, the fence sitters. I don't really know what's going on with this religion shit. I don't like what I've heard in my church, and I don't like what I've seen of what religion has done under other people. So I'm either going to be agnostic or atheist, and just go about life that way with my faith in myself, my faith in my own intellect. That's another way that BORG gets control of you, because if you don't have a faith, you don't have a religion, people invent them. They invent them even if it's only the religion of, I only trust myself. I am my own God. And how many people, especially among the atheist agnostic community, act like that? They are sure that they are the only ones that can tell them anything. They've lost so much faith in others, they're not even willing to listen to anything, especially if it's anything related to spirituality or politics. because they are intimately entwined. You cannot have politics without spirituality, without belief. If you don't take a stand, what's the point of voting? And a lot of Americans are in that mindset. You know, they make them feel guilty when the final election comes around so they can go out and rubber stamp the candidate that they've been told by the mind-controlling press is the one, press the button, because it's the lesser evil. By that time, you're not really making a choice. The time to be active is in the primaries. The time to be active is in your local community so it doesn't get taken over by one party. Like many, many communities and states have, where one or the other party is riding herd over everybody like an authoritarian micromanager, looking like, just like either a communist dictatorship or a fascist dictatorship. Hitler or Mao, take your pick, they're equally bad. Han supremacists, Aryan supremacists, black supremacists, you're all servants of the evil one, and I don't mind saying that. To the extent that you use your race, color, creed, whatever, as a club to bludgeon anybody that doesn't agree with you. You are evil. I don't care what you stand for, what your cause is. I don't care if you're a poor, oppressed, single woman who was robbed of the ability to control my destiny and have my abortion, and now I've got 3 kids here, and what am I going to do with them? And now you're destroying the lives of my sisters with overturning Roe v. Wade. You're authoritarian assholes who use and manipulate people emotionally, physically, in any way you can to get what you want. And sure, there are people on the other side that are just as bad, who want to take girls who are found pregnant when it becomes obvious in school, remove them from their schools, and put them into a place where their baby can be protected from the chiding and a manipulation of their peers, so the baby can be carried to full term and the mother can be responsible. They want to go find the father and make them responsible too. There's some good in that too, but if you do it in an authoritarian way instead of letting the family deal with it, you're just as bad. If you want to legislate every single family issue and take the right away from parents up to an age where a child should be able to make their own decisions, and from the child when they should, to the state when they should be able to make their own decisions, the government should step as lightly on people's lives as they possibly can. Because that's where the biggest threat of authoritarianism is. When the government of a whole community, a whole state, a whole country, a whole world starts stepping into every little aspect of every person's life, this is evil. And this is what globalism 1.0 looks like. You've got a bunch of folks in the UN, in the US government, in the Chinese government, all over the world, in positions of power that are jumped up worshipers of their own infallibility and think they know better than anybody what's good for everybody, whatever their specialty is. That's how you get assholes like Fauci, who just today has been exposed, along with some of his cronies, to having received $350 million in bribes over this pandemic that we've been fighting. And I'm going to get canceled for this, probably, but I don't give a fuck anymore as long as one person sees it before it does. It's time to expose all these authoritarian assholes for what they are. Because once you go down that path, you'll cover up, you'll do anything to keep your power. And that has been proven in spades all over the world and is still going on with this fake war in the Ukraine, where there are no good guys, only evil masquerading as good, trying to manipulate people on both sides. And it's got to stop. This is BORG work. This is mind control. This is an alien species, if you want, or an alien god trying to destroy this planet before it fulfills its mission. Destroy this species before they fulfill their mission, which is being the last chosen species that has to go through this idiocy and see their planet destroyed and get some remnant off to another world to rebuild and recover. This is the truth embedded in the Star Wars, the original Star Wars story, and has been completely bastardized and turned upside down by the follow-ups, especially, God, the crap coming out that's supposed to be Star Wars now, compared to, I mean, yeah, the first movie was campy and silly because the special effects weren't great, and you know, it was some truth presented with a lot of comedy, which is the way truth usually is presented, because it's inconvenient to people, and that's how you get it past Hollywood before they realize that you are raining on their parade. This evil empire is not the United States. It is not China. China serves the evil more than the United States, but the United States is quickly catching up, and other countries are falling all over themselves to try to be part of the evil empire of the New World Order, I call it, not order. A real New World Order would be to cast out all of the authoritarian worshippers of BORG and set up a government that lets people decide for themselves, gives them open and honest information, enough time to decide, and some checks and balances to make sure that any kind of mind control doesn't have the ability to so quickly turn everything on its end that you have a revolution overnight and everything you set up gets destroyed. That's what happened in the French Revolution. It didn't happen in the United States. There are still many countries that have a lot of freedom left, despite the rapid pace leadership is trying to remove it. Well-intentionedly, maybe, because they're afraid of the pandemic. They're afraid of immigrants. They're afraid of China. They're afraid of... I don't care. I'm not on any side here. They all have their dark servants. Donald Trump is not a messiah. Or maybe if he is, he doesn't know yet if he's a God Messiah or an anti-Messiah. He may, in reality, be a Messiah of the United States. He's certainly not a Messiah of God, because no God-fearing person would present themselves as such an insufferable asshole. At least not without a comic effect, which is how I try to do it. I don't know, maybe I seem like an insufferable asshole to you with what I'm telling you, because it may sound very self-centered. Sorry, I have to share this with you. I don't make any money off this. I don't even know if anybody sees my content, because I've been shadow banned so hard for speaking out against both authoritarian parties, and especially for speaking out against China, since I realized that I had fallen under their spell while I was there and been pumped up for my starting an English language community theater in Shanghai, the first that existed in China, since the Japanese invasion, trying to get Chinese into our performances and trying to present content that would be allowable to the authorities, even though we had no performing license and no script reviews like you're supposed to have as any deliverer of entertainment in China. And this is how authoritarians work. They let us operate for 2 years while I was leading it. Then after I had to go back to the US because my corporate assignment ended, the ones who took it over started splintering among themselves, and one splitter group decided to put on a play called M. Butterfly, which, if you're not familiar with, is a retelling of the Madame Butterfly / Romeo and Juliet / whatever, fatal romance story, which involved gay Asian heroine instead of the normal female. You know the Madame Butterfly story. It's about an American imperialist marrying, under false pretenses, a poor innocent Japanese girl and then dumping her for his American love and leaving her with a baby with no father, and she commits suicide. It's a really dark tale and an example of what was already going on as a cultural Marxist meme to try to discredit all of what the US was doing under the guise of pretending like all of these soldiers and sailors who were trying to establish links, trying to establish contacts, trying to make peaceful contacts with folks around the world, were demonized as wanting to just go fuck all your girls, which anybody who knows anything about the period or any of the wars that the U.S. has participated in Asia is only a very small half-truth. If you knew the number of very, very good guys who married their Vietnamese sweethearts, their Korean sweethearts, their Philippine sweethearts, their Thai sweethearts, and have been living happily together ever after, giving them the best life they could, and being very good, faithful husbands, you know what a lie those things are. And this is the lie that these arch neo-feminists are telling you, that all men are bad and we have to protect ourselves against them. We have to protect our bodies from everything that could assault them. You don't have much longer to get over this crap, folks. Yes, there are aliens among us. Call them aliens, call them gods. It really doesn't matter. They still have powers that you can only imagine, which include mind control powers and technology in any area you could think of that is light years in advance of anything we've developed ourselves. Now, is that a reason for despair? Absolutely not, because there's a lot of those species that hate BORG more than I do. They've been fighting this battle for a long time, and they have sort of an uneasy truce in this universe with them. There are galaxies that are completely controlled by BORG. There are others that are, basically places where the God side goes to regroup and rebuild so that they can come back and plant a new chosen species on Earth and start over. That's what's really been going on. We're not losing here, we're winning. The game is about whether God can wake up in the latest version of the laws to govern all souls before BORG can destroy and keep you on the last version, whichever one is currently in place in your planet, in your galaxy, in your universe. There are, well, this new version of karma is karma 12, as I tell you. There are 11 previous versions which are active in other parts of this universe and the other universe, the alternate universe. And the whole idea behind that is BORG is off somewhere in their universe working on their perfect version of anti-karma, if you will, authoritarian law. While we're working on our secret weapon, karma, that defeats all versions of their authoritarian law. Now, if you know anything about how spiritual energy works, it's a little bit like physical energies, only it has a positive or repulsive effect. Okay? Think about electromagnetic energy. Okay, if you take two waves of electromagnetic energy and you superimpose them in phase, they each other. If they impose out of phase, they subtract from each other. Spiritual energy is a little different. If you take spiritual energy and impose it in phase, it actually magnifies. You don't get 2 + 2 = 4. You get 2 to the, I don't know, whatever power. It depends on the souls involved and how long they stay in phase and how many other frequencies are in play that sort of damp out their effect. This is what prayer is all about and why it's a very difficult thing to get enough energy together to have a successful prayer. Now, if these energies are out of phase, they can create sort of negative spirituality that actually creates the energy of BORG, which is an energy of divisiveness, an energy of cognitive dissonance. This is the energy that's causing people to be at each other's throats just for expressing an opinion that is different from theirs. They get triggered and they go absolutely apeshit nuts. And if you don't think anybody is subject to that online, just go try to challenge one of these love, light, everything is perfect. I don't let anything, oh, your energies cannot faze me. Oh, I'm immune. I put a shell around myself. I have my high frequency vibe and nobody's gonna touch it. You just go and try and challenge those people about what they're religious about, whether it's politics, whether it's their belief in the power of crystals, their belief in the power of macrobiotics, their belief in the power of organic food, etc., etc. Their belief that people need to go back and live in communes and not in cities anymore and destroy all their technology, get back to the golden age. These people will actually, their heads will explode when you start challenging them. And I've seen heads explode in every community I participate in, which is a lot on Facebook. Because I like to see what people are thinking. I will join communities and have joined communities of vastly different persuasion and have actually been a partisan of them until I realized, you know what, this isn't going anywhere. I was a big Bernie supporter in the 2016 primaries. I thought, yeah, this guy sounds like he's finally going to do something different. And you know what? Populism in America has been a good thing. Teddy Roosevelt was the first American progressive, populist progressive, and he nearly won a second term as a third-party independent with his newly formed American Progressive Party, which they now tell you is the Bull Moose Party, making fun of it and ridiculing it and discouraging anybody from actually doing any real research to see what was going on then. But that election cycle was when basically Democrats and Republicans became one uniparty establishment that would round up the wagons and viciously attack anybody that challenged the status quo. And you've seen that happen for the last 100 years. Every time any populist really started to get some traction of either conservative or liberal leaning. FDR did a lot of good things for America, but he was no populist. He was selected by his class to do things that were very unpopular to that class, who at that time had more loyalty to America than they did to the foreign countries, the big globalist corporations of the day that were trying to manipulate them and keep them out of the war until their favorites won. Whether that was the USSR, the proponents of globalist communism, or Hitler, the proponents of globalist fascist authoritarianism. There were rich people in that era that supported both and had to disavow it afterwards. Go do some research on the Bush family links to Hitler before Bush 1 was elected. His father was pretty suspiciously linked to the Nazis before he went 180 the other degree and supported the war effort. And there were others among the American elites that had very suspicious links to the USSR, to communism, who had to disavow that after World War II, when it became clear that the USSR was not our friend, and we could well be heading straight into a continuation of the World War, which is what folks like Patton were talking about when they saw what was happening to Germany in the post-war world. How there were a bunch of folks snatching up German war criminals with scientific knowledge on both the Russian and the American side, and Russian generals jokingly telling him, in their parties on the side, well, we'll see you in the next war, because everybody that was involved in the military at that point knew it was only a matter of time before the Western rule of law way of life faced communism, communist authoritarianism. Something that many people don't realize about communism and its lighter version, extreme socialism, is that it is not populist at all. These ideologies, these movements are Pied Pipers. They don't intend to make everybody equal. They don't intend to bring prosperity to everybody. They intend to put you under an authoritarian uniparty that tells you what you should do, when you should do, and how you should do it, and has this oligarchic structure that has, one guy at the top can basically dictate to everybody below them, who dictates to everybody below them, who dictates to everybody below them, and the lowly person at the bottom can get away with anything until they run afoul of somebody who wants to step on them, and poof. And this is how the Andromedan view of peace, love, and harmony in the universe works. The most powerful species will let other species do anything until they get in the way of their bread and butter, and they'll step on it. They run every bit of interstellar commerce. They run every bit of interstellar politics. Watch the movie Dune, especially the new cut of it on YouTube if it's still available. It's a kind of fan cut that has some extra content, some extra subtitling and things like just very subtle things that help you understand what's going on and how it relates to today better. This is a prophetic movie based on a prophetic book. Yes, there are many modern prophets in literature, in film, etc., who are trying to get a message to our species through BORG censorship, and these things are getting canceled day by day. Let me tell you something I just noticed has been quietly canceled without anybody saying a thing. Does anybody who likes movies of the 90s remember a very fun and kind of family-ish action movie called True Lies? Arnold Schwarzenegger. What was the female lead? The one from, God, I have a horrible time with names. It's not because I'm sexist. Jamie Lee Curtis, Tony Curtis's daughter. And I don't remember the other guy. He was just starting to gain fame, but he was great in it too. At any rate, this was about a secret agent, CIA guy, super guy like, Arnold Schwarzenegger's a perfect one to play that, right? Only instead of being like, the Terminator of CIA agents, he was doing his job, but also had family problems. He was afraid his wife was cheating on him and started using his access to surveillance technologies, which were pretty advanced then, to spy on his wife and see who she was cheating with. And she actually was considering cheating because she had a feeling that her husband, Harry Tasker, was leading this weird dual life that he wasn't really telling her everything, because he'd bring her and the family little gifts back after his long jaunts on business trips, and give them some story about the stuff he'd accomplished and whatnot on that business trip. And this has been canceled. And you know why? Because if you look at it, it looks like, God, that looks like the real CIA now, or real guys like Hunter Biden, who go off on these jaunts with their father, doing business as if they're doing something good for the U.S., and actually making deals with companies that represent the military of our biggest enemy. Our enemy, China, internally, in their intellectual institutions, in some of their press, have openly been talking about how their plan to destroy America by using its own freedom against it is working so well, and actually bragging. And people have brought these documents out and translated them and are starting to show Americans how stupid they were to support Nixon Kissinger and open up a country that is never going to open up. Communism will never be an open society. Its whole reason for being is creating an Orwellian control state, which will suck up any story that explains how perfect the uniparty is, no matter how much problem they cause. They always find somebody to blame. And the U.S. has seen that in spades with what the Biden administration has done since it took over. This is why I call Biden B-A-I-D-E-N-G, buy dung in Chinese, buy shit, because that's exactly what they did in sending fake ballots to the U.S., which could be carried around by 2,000 mules, which, if you know anything, is a real thing, which is coming out in a documentary this week that they are going to try to viciously suppress. There is real evil afoot here. And you can't just sit on the sidelines and pray for Jesus to come. Pray for the aliens to save you. That's not how creation works. That's not how proving your worth to God works. You don't go to heaven sitting on a fence. You don't go to heaven following the yellow brick road. You gotta climb your way on the stairway to heaven. And with that, I think we'll close this one and see how long it takes before it gets copyright claimed or just out and out banned, as opposed to being shadow banned, which is something I'm very familiar with. For the Omnist Hour, this is Rob Trump. Like, share, subscribe. I'll hope to see you later or in another life. Take care.